Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring a really rich, deeply resonant story. It's all about how wisdom gets passed down through generations, how failure can actually be transformative, and, well, the legacy we find in storytelling itself. We're drawing from two main sources here, excerpts from Abbas and The Storyteller's Legacy. And together they paint this incredibly intimate picture of a grandfather and his grandson. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights, about mentorship, resilience, and how we actively participate in keeping alive the stories that shape who we are. You'll see how these very personal moments can hold, well, universal truths.
It really is a beautiful narrative. And what strikes me is how it shows the threads connecting us across time. It's not just what is learned, but maybe more importantly, how it's passed on. That whole process.
Okay, right. Let's dive in then. Let's immerse ourselves in that sun-drenched courtyard where so much of the story unfolds, the world of Abbas and Hussain. So the main characters are Abbas and Abu, his grandson calls him, and young Hussain, who's about 10. Their world, as the sources describe it, often centers on this peaceful courtyard. Hussain apparently thought of it as his entire universe.
Yeah.
And Abbas, his face is described as a map of a life well lived, lines etched from decades of laughter and squinting into the sun. His hands, though gnarled by age, were always steady, pouring tea, guiding Hussain. Hussain, on the other hand, he's this whirlwind of energy, right? A typical scrape-knee, loud-laughing boy. But with his grandfather, he becomes still a satellite caught in a peaceful orbit. There's this deep calm he finds there. It's quite a contrast.
It absolutely is. And what's set up so effectively here is the creation of a kind of sanctuary. That courtyard, the rituals, the daily nap with the rock candy. Hussain asking for a story the second he gets there.
Yeah, Nana Abu, tell me about the jinn.
Exactly. It's more than just a backdrop. It feels like a deliberate space, walled off from the sort of thrum of the outside world. It's designed really for this profound intergenerational connection and learning. It shows how important that consistent environment and ritual are for mentorship.
And it's in that space, that sanctuary, one afternoon, things take a turn. Hussain finds Abbas on the bench under the neem tree, but he's not starting a fantastical tale. He's looking at an old photo, a faded black and white one. It's Abbas as a boy, looking serious, holding a little hand-carved boat. And this leads to a different kind of story. Not just a story, but his story. About a boat that sank. A dhow. Abbas tells him about growing up in this dusty, landlocked village. Never seen the ocean, but dreamt of it constantly from books. These vast, salty waters. So he decides he's going to build a boat, a traditional dhow. Carved it himself from teakwood. He describes the blistered fingers, the unwavering determination. He wanted to send a piece of myself to the ocean he'd never seen. He takes his little ship to the biggest pond nearby, sets the sail with all the hope in his heart, and it just tips over immediately. Sank like a stone. He was utterly heartbroken. Felt like a total failure, that his dream was just too big for his hands.
That moment of failure, that sinking, it's so crucial, isn't it? It's presented not just as, a kid being disappointed. It's framed as this foundational experience. It kind of sets up the idea that failure isn't the end. Often it's the necessary start to really understanding something.
Yeah.
And it does make you think, how do we usually handle failure as individuals, as a society? Are we maybe too quick to just write it off? Do we miss the valuable lessons embedded in it?
That's a really good point. And here's where it gets, well, really interesting. Because Abbas's own grandfather, so Hussein's great-great-grandfather, gets involved. He finds young Abbas just moping by the pond. But he doesn't scold him, doesn't laugh. Instead, he just waded into the pond, clothes and all, and pulled out this sunken dream. And his first question wasn't blame. It was just, why did it sink? Simple, direct.
Just curiosity, openness.
Exactly. And that question kicked off this collaborative learning process. They figured it out together. The hole was too narrow, the sail too heavy, the keel wasn't right, the balance was off. Abbas explicitly says, he taught me how to shave the hole wider, add a keel weight, balance the whole thing. He didn't do it for me, he guided my hands. That guidance, that act of mentorship feels key.
It really is. It's the critical difference, isn't it? Between being told the answer and being guided to find it yourself. Through the problem solving, through the mistake itself. It does more than just fix the boat. It builds understanding, real practical knowledge, sure, but maybe more importantly, it builds resilience. The grandfather empowers Abbas by making him part of fixing his own failure.
Right. Which leads to the second launch. They go back to the pond. This time there's a crowd of other kids watching. Young Abbas is terrified, understandably, of failing again, but his grandfather just gives him this single, slow nod. That's all. He puts the dhow in the water, and it's straightened, tipped for a heart-stopping second, and then righted itself. It didn't just float, Abbas tells Hussein. It sliced through the water. It was brave. It was glorious. It flew to the other side. But the real victory, Abbas says, wasn't the cheers. It was that quiet look, that affirming glance from his grandfather.
Hmm. And that whole sequence, it perfectly encapsulates the lesson Abbas later spells out for Hussein. That day, I did not learn about the sea. I learned about failure. He says, it is not the opposite of success, Hussein. It is its teacher. It is the rough draft of the story. Without that sinking, I would never have learned how to make it sail. The failure was a gift. It's just such a powerful reframing. Setbacks aren't dead ends, they're vital steps. They're how you achieve real mastery, deep understanding.
And that Tao story, it really becomes this foundational pillar for Hussein. It shifts things between him and Abbas. Nana Abu isn't just the teller of fun stories anymore. He becomes this true guide. He starts teaching Hussein these broader lessons, how to listen for the story in the call of a morning dove, or read the history in tree rings, little things, big ideas. He teaches him that patience was a form of strength, that real courage is often in quiet kindness, not loud boasts. And these weren't just lectures, they were woven into stories, into their daily life.
And what's fascinating is how that very concrete story of the Tao, the sinking, the fixing, the sailing, it acts like a metaphor. It becomes this springboard for teaching much more abstract life skills like resilience, problem solving, character. The stories aren't just background noise. They're almost like an operating manual for life, making those lessons stick, making them practical for Hussein.
Yeah, and the text shows him using it. He remembers the sunken boat when he's stuck on a math problem. Or he recalls another of Abbas's stories about two brothers and a stolen pomegranate to understand why he needs to apologize after a fight with a friend. The narratives become his toolkit. But, time passes, as it always does. The sources describe Abbas slowing down. His steps get slower, the pauses in his stories get longer. Sometimes he forgets the endings. Eventually, that wicker chair in the courtyard is empty most days. Abbas moves mainly to his room, though he can still hear Hussein outside. Hussein, he's 13 now, and his role shifts. He starts visiting his grandfather, telling him stories about school, friends, trying to, as the text says, give back the gift. But he feels this cold, sharp fear, this immense weight of impending loss. He has this dread that the library was about to burn, that all this wisdom, all these stories would just vanish. Then one evening, Abbas delivers this final, really profound message. Hussein is tearful, scared of forgetting his grandfather's voice, the stories. Abbas tells him his voice is a whisper, like rustling leaves, but firm. Do not look so sad, my Hussein. The story is not ending. Hussein whispers his fears, and Abbas looks at him. There's this light in his eyes. He says, "You think I have been giving you fish to eat for a day. No, my boy. I have been teaching you how to fish. I have been giving you the net."
Wow. The net. That's powerful imagery.
It really is. And he goes on, "The stories are not in my voice. They are in your blood now. They are not mine to keep. They are yours to tell." And then he talks about the chain. "You will not be remembering me. You will be speaking for me. My voice will be in your voice. My father's voice will be in my voice, which is in your voice." We are all links in a chain, Hussein. A story is a chain that stretches back to the first fire and forward to the last star. His final truth for Hussein is, a man is never truly gone as long as his story is told.
That final lesson. It's so layered. What Abbas is doing is defining legacy, but not as something static, like a memory you just hold on to. It's active. It's a living narrative that needs to be continuously told. And that distinction he makes between remembering and speaking for duty, that's crucial. It shifts the burden, or maybe the privilege, from just passive recall to active stewardship. It's about empowering Hussein, the next generation, to be the voice, the carrier of that shared wisdom. That's how it truly endures.
So, after Abbas passes away, the world feels dull gray for Hussein. The silence is heavy, suffocating. That vibrant courtyard feels empty. He feels this immense burden from his grandfather's last words. Like, how can he possibly carry all that? But then comes the turning point. About a week after the funeral, Hussein is in the courtyard just needing some space. And his little cousin, Aisha, she's only 7, finds him. Her eyes are red-rimmed and swimming with tears, and she just says, so sadly, no one tells stories anymore. And in that moment, Hussein sees his own grief reflected in her.
Ah, that must have hit hard.
It did, because right then he hears it. Not his grandfather's actual voice, but the echo of his lesson. The failure was a gift. The story's not ending. And suddenly that burden, it transforms. It becomes purpose. A strange sort of calm comes over him. He holds out his hand to Aisha. Come here. And he leads her over to that same stone bench under the neem tree, the exact spot. She leans against him. He takes a deep breath. And the words, the text says, didn't feel like his own. They felt borrowed, gifted, passed down through the chain. And he starts. Let me tell you a story. It's about a boy in a wooden boat, a long, long time ago in a village where they had never seen the sea. His voice finds this new, gentle rhythm, but it's also familiar, and as he speaks, something happens. The emptiness starts to fill. He realizes he's not just remembering, he's rebuilding the world with words, just like Abbas taught him. He's stepping into the role, he's got the net now.
And that's the perfect circle, isn't it? The legacy isn't just understood, it's enacted. Hussain isn't just recalling the Tao story, he is the storyteller now. He's become the next link. When he sees Aisha captivated, he sees himself years ago, and he gets it. His grandfather was absolutely right. The story wasn't over, it never would be, it's just passed on. Like that Tao catching a new wind, sailing on. And Hussain, he's the captain now. It's such a profound image of continuity, of purpose, of what a living legacy truly means.
Yeah, absolutely. So this deep dive, it's really shown us some powerful things. Failure as, well, maybe our best teacher sometimes. The beauty of that intergenerational mentorship and this idea that our stories, they're not just memories locked away, they're living connections, they're chains that give us purpose, ensure our voices carry on.
Mhm. And maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. Thinking about Abbas and Hussain invites you to consider your own nets and Taos. What stories have you inherited? What crucial lessons came to you through challenges, through maybe your own sinkings? And critically, what narratives are you now carrying? How can your voice become a conscious, active link in that timeless chain, making sure those vital stories keep sailing?
A powerful question to reflect on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope these insights sail with you.